I like being wrong in a scenario like this. I like to see new teams step up and rise up in the scene. And not only that, I have known Roca for quite some time now. You know, my time spent in semi-pro CS and also involved in a little land called Fragadelphia had me get very close to Danny. So I hope for his sake he's able to find the win.
Wow.
But my heart still says Cloud9 is going to take this one, and TenZ kicks things off with a bang. Mitch is there with the backup as well. Cloud9 gets full access to the A site, a follow-up onto Insky, and this round is looking ominous as Cloud9 starts quick with an A push.
Gotta love those right
Spike
clicks,
planted.
especially as TenZ wheeling that as that Jett pushing in and getting those kills. Somehow, the first one, point of contact, I'm pretty sure that was Roca at the ramp. Yes, he was actually a little bit blind from the paranoia, but TenZ was close enough where he could probably see him as he's nearsighted to get the kill. But you have 3 players that are low HP as they are going for this retake attempt. Kaplan spotting one here. They're going for the wallbang. Double frenzy to get the kill. But now here comes retaliation instead from the hell side. After that dart that came out, a turret on the top 2, a long-range frenzy to connect onto Vice, but it's traded off to Mitch. Speaking of Mitch, switching out from the Killjoy, switching out from the Cypher into a Killjoy on this map versus yesterday, but it's traded off by Relyks in the end, and Cloud9 Blue with a very, very explosive A-side take will win this pistol round.
Fast plays work out well. They just dive bomb the site. Heads down and crosshairs up. Cloud9 just completely obliterated the defense there. And now they stack all their eggs in the B basket, it looks like. A lot of players currently sitting outside B. Vice is going to send a deep shock dart over towards short. And there's the door being shut by sSef. I do like this setup currently, but this paranoia is going to make this a little bit awkward. So there's the flash coming through. They have a freebie kill, and yeah, never mind. As cool as that setup could have been, it's completely eliminated by a boombot and a shotgun in conjunction with the paranoia. It's all it took to completely decimate the push. And now even TenZ finding one more. You know he wants this last one too. He wants the 4K on that shotgun.
Close. He gets it. At least you had a little bit of connection going on there from the sheriff of Roca, able to connect once onto TenZ, but in the end, it will be that 4K that was being searched there from TenZ that will make this a 2-0, sorry, on the scoreline. And I was just trying to look back here in terms of SSG, their composition, same thing for Cloud9 Blue. Like I said, they got rid for Cloud9 Blue of that breach, and they brought back a Sova with Vice. But the thing is, as well as SSG, I remember maybe 1 or 2 events ago, we interviewed Kaplan and he said, you know what, from the composition that we have, we really needed to have a breach into our composition. And maybe they were thinking that the fault line and the flashes were the key factors for them to try to get these rounds. But now you see it. They switched it back out. They have a Sova back in the hands of Kaplan, and the same thing for Cloud9, where it seems that the breach maybe not as viable as you're talking about. Pick, off pick, pick, off pick. And this time, no breach here, and a first kill as sSef falls down on the staircase and shock darts. There you go. You don't have a breach, you got shock darts for kills.
Spike planted.
Insky and company trying to get back in after Cloud9 again gobbled up site control. And this time the bullets are pouring through the wall and they're going straight into the belly of Roca. You can hear the groan come out from Reyna as Roca looks to gain an advanced position. We talked about how important this would be. Look at this late play coming in though. You've still got Sova and B main depending on the peak. Wow. This is brutal. You know, I don't want to pretend like I'm some sort of philosopher, but I looked at the early game as the pace setter. You know, what's the pace going to look like and who's going to be the one that sets it? And right now, it seems like it's going to be a blistering pace, and Cloud9 is going to be in control of said pace.
Yeah.
TenZ is 7-1 right off the rip. We're just 3 rounds into the game.
The good thing is that they also control the post plan so well. You saw it from the first share shots, information was given away because audible cues from Roca getting hit. Blast packs, darts. Let's stop talking because they're rushing straight into the A side again, but roca connects with the headshot from Generator. Quickly traded out though by Relyks. Already the defense on the A side. When we set the shares to bring true here for SSG, it got immediately denied here by Cloud9. They get into a site, it's going to be a 4 versus 3. You are trying to move in with these pistols, and a nice dart actually as you're trying to spray through, but that's not going to kill anybody there. Full HP, or very healthy at least for Cloud9. And things are looking not too great for SSG to try to get these rounds, especially with the lockdown. 2 of them will get detained, so it's going to be a bait. You're going to try to get a kill there from sSef, but it's not going to happen. Even a temp of a knife kill, you're able to make a way through the corner at least, and it's going to be Relyks. Adding up a 4K, 1 was from TenZ, 1 now from Relyks, and we have 4 unanswered rounds for Cloud9. Buck, I don't know what you do here.
Yeah, like this
so
is a big round because you know I think Space Station desperately needs to stop this, or you're just going to see this go back and forth the whole match.
Yeah.
You better run, Sova.
And I kind of am willing to agree with you as well. Like, what do you do when they're playing this fast? Like, they're literally just overwhelming you time and time again. It's almost like they're not letting Space Station play their own game.
Yeah.
They're just running in and they're saying, oh, like, if you had something you wanted to set up, I hope it's already there because I'm not going to give you much time to put that into position. Now, this round is a break check. You can see Cloud9 realizing, okay, we've run fast like several rounds in a row. Let's slow down and just pause for a moment.
Wow.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
I like that setup. So TenZ goes for the jump and spray, and that allows his teammate to get into a position, but he went out too far. So he goes out just a bit too far and gets pulled out by the rip currents and taken away by SSG. So it was a good setup, just doesn't really produce the success one might hope for.
You baited out the swing too, right, from roca, so you were hoping that the person that made into the site could actually get that kill. So the idea was there, but it doesn't connect, it doesn't come fruitful for Cloud9, and as sSef continues his reign on the B side, continues the defense rather, on the B side, gets 2 kills of his own. It gets traded out by Mitch. We're on a 4 versus 2, and last 2 players are going to try to rush towards the A side, where roca will be waiting. The thing is right now is that Cloud9, they had an op that they wanted to buy at the beginning for TenZ, but TenZ decides to go for the Vandal instead, which I like, because the aggressive play that they want to play really plays into the favor of TenZ rushing in with the weapons. But he falls, spike planted, Boostio with the last kill. The defuse will come in for SSG, a much needed round. And I think, again, this is a very similar scenario from the last time that they met. I'm going to have to look back on that. Yeah, I saw, you see Cloud9 Blue that had 4 rounds in a row on Ascent, and then SSG getting that round back as soon as the economy came back in their favor. So I don't know if it was exactly the explosive plays that we saw. I missed a little bit of that part of that matchup, but at least the scenario is very similar to when they played Ascent in terms of scoreline.
Yeah, you know, it always depends, like, what does that second round look like, right? Like, what did SSG bring into that second round? Did they spend too much? Is the money a little bit tight coming into that third, the traditional full block buy round? So then, you got to look at the way the game looks. You know, you lose that 4th round then if you come in with an eco, and then the 5th round is a strong buy. You see the same kind of thing develop in games like Counter-Strike as well, where that's the point at which you can get an op and play. And that's the point at which you have like the full utility that you maybe didn't have that first time around. TenZ tries to fly in, but without backup, what's a man supposed to do? Now, as I say that, they've managed to bring things back to at least a manageable position. It's a 3-on-2. Oh, I love this. The molly goes into the corner, but it doesn't go deep enough. Mitch is actually able to avoid the flames just for the time being. The Owl drone will go in first, looking for some intel, looking to spot a player out if possible. And the drone will send a dart into the belly of the Phoenix, who's in position towards spawn. As the pulses continue to come through, Mitch actually runs dry on the magazine, has to go for a fresh one. There's still a player on site, and it's his opposing Killjoy, the doppelganger, if you will. There's the dart that comes in. I love the play, but it doesn't work out. It was a bait shot from that dart to get him to look away.
Yeah.
But with the low HP and the transfer over, there's only so much that can be done. Now, the spike's been picked up by Mitch, and Mitch is hightailing it out of there to get across the site. So You see Mitch now moving on over to the A site. A spike plant will come through. Alarm bot goes down. He's got double nano swarm.
10 seconds left.
So there's a possibility to try and play the time here in the post plant. A little bit early on the Killjoy ult, but again, he doesn't see what we see. He doesn't know what we know. And that'll at least allow him some time to collect his thoughts and gather up a plan.
Placing swarm grenade.
Well, they both moved away after the lockdown, and he places a perfect molly on the pulse plant too. sSef's not going to hear it. He has the lockdown himself, but sSef, he's going to have to try to move quick. Mitch is at low HP. This could still be doable, but now with that clock running down, he has to come out quick. And from that, the peak, he gets the kill, but I don't know if he has enough time. Yeah, he doesn't, so he has to fall back and save his gun.
And I don't even think he's going to do that. I think he dies. Yeah. That's unfortunate. That was well played, I think, from both parties. Honestly, I don't think you can fault either party. I think sSef realizing that he doesn't have time to logistically throw down a lockdown, and not only that, does it really matter? At that point, he still has to stick the spike. Shinobi's just going to, or Mitch is just going to peek into it. Yeah. So it doesn't make too much of a difference. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but it's well played for Mitch to not only crack past that last player on the B side who is playing back towards spawn and take the spike towards A, but just good positioning and spatial awareness. Well played. Space Station, they won one, lose one, but the buy still comes through from them. And they start things off with an aggressive player of their own. This is what we had talked about pace setting. Space Station will excel if their players are feeling confident and playing aggressively. That's what roca does really well. And that's the first time we've really seen them successfully go for an aggressive look early. But off the back of that, Cloud9's just going to charge into this B site, and it's looking okay for Space Station. They find 2 kills initially. Shinobi goes through the smokes, but sSef is still on the site doing big things, and there's still one more here as well. But somehow Insky comes up empty-handed. So despite their early efforts, we're still at a 2-on-2.
Spike planted.
They still had it for SSG, though. All the information, you talked about aggressive plays, the double push to start things off to get the first kill, but at the same time, they pushed Catwalk and they also pushed A-Main all the way through spawn. And once again, that's Boostio. A flank on a different map, but onto this map, he always goes all the way through spawn, which maybe wastes a little bit of time, but goes for a bigger backstab. That clock is ticking down. Thankfully, we're low HP for Cloud9. What? HP doesn't matter. Mitch is at 11. It's on 1 versus 1, but the right click comes through for Boostio. He's going to have enough time. The defuse is going to come through. And what I was trying to say is from him flanking all the way towards spawn and already having roca up on catwalk, they knew the attack was eventually going to happen towards the B side. And the last time on this round and the previous one, they were still able to hold 2-3 kills before, where Cloud9 took advantage of a push through spawn after the rotate back towards A. So initially the hold is great, but after the action kind of calms down, Cloud9 is able to take advantage of the map after, despite them having the loose players at the beginning of the initiation. So it's still going to be a very tough round, very tough rounds for the defender side of SSG to win, which is what you see right now. A Guardian small shield, another player with a small shield. It's not easy ones that they're taking.
I love this. Cloud9's trying to get aggressive, but Boostio has the same idea. So they just run at each other, and the curveball with so many bodies lined up. All he has to do is just hold down mouse 1, and he finds 3 kills. Well played from Boostio. I like the approach from Cloud9, as we know how well it's worked for them when they've played fast. This time, they just ran into a force that they couldn't deal with. Yeah. Now it comes down to 1 player remaining. It's Vice. It's a 1-on-3. It's not impossible. This is winnable. He's got his ults available as well. He's still got a recon dart. He's got the owl drone. So there's opportunity and possibility. He could isolate some of these players as well. It's all going to come down to timing and position. So Vice, now moving in, has to deal with the fact that the window is still up. But gonna just go around it, and I really like this play. Has potential for sure, but with the angles being held, getting over towards B is going to be difficult, and getting towards A is also going to be difficult. Look at the line of sight currently held from the opposing Sova. Still a nice shot coming out from Vice, but oh no, the timing! He changed positions. So their Killjoy sSef started the shift, he could have had him caught off guard before he got to here. It doesn't matter in the end. You still, sSef pull the knife out thinking, I got to get to A to help. And then there was that, oh, wait moment. I still got to hold this spot. Doesn't end up punishing them. They still end up winning the round. But it did look a little scary there for a moment.
And what I did like from sSef, too, is that he had the alarm bot in the front of Pizza at the staircase. He watches the spawn side, and his turret is watching B main. So for him to be able to hold the B side or get that information for the team was good enough to allow the last two players to just play it, turtle up inside the A side. Yes, definitely winnable for Vice, as he did win a 3 versus 1 yesterday on Bind versus his very team. But this time, when it was a little bit unfortunate. I mean, TenZ was already in an angle where he looks inside the A site, but did not expect a face-to-face confrontation with Boostio, who he himself, with a run it back, will see that Mitch is just outside the cabin. But nothing more than that, so they could still expect some sort of A take, and it's exactly what's happening right now.
Our spike carrier is killed.
Fly into the site, it works out nicely. They find some success, and TenZ upgrades from the shotgun to the rifle. One of the more promising rounds we've seen from Cloud9 in the last few, as Spacestation has looked pretty solid.
You should run.
But now Cloud9's in a solid position. You see what they're doing here. They're using the ult of the Hunter's Fury to take out the lockdown. We've talked about this before. Damaging ults can cancel lockdown, and that's what Vice does. It's really well played, well timed as well, and it kind of flattens out the possibility of a retake. Now it's a 2-on-4, and you don't have that ult as a backup plan. They have to try to just get away. Boostio, at least with a good flash, will allow them to escape with their lives, but they're just trying to grip onto their rifles and bring them into the next round.
And that's definitely one of the reasons why you wanted to bring a Sova into this lineup instead of a Breach. Having that, maybe not getting a couple of kills, but able to use that lockdown, because you just saw quite a few rounds ago when it was that 1 versus 1 versus Mitch and sSef. When that lockdown is down, you're out of position on a retake, you're winning so much time for the one that's putting the lockdown down for the team. So being able to have a Hunter's Fury in your arsenal, just in case that timing is right. We haven't seen many of those Hunter's Fury looking for kills right now. It's really to try to cancel out for versus the ultimate, and it pays off very well for Cloud9 at this point. So 6-3 for them right now. Where SSG, when we're looking at the scenario the last time they faced off, I think this was pretty normal too. Most of the rounds that they got for Spacestation Gaming were on the attack. So being able to claw down a couple of these rounds earlier on in this first half could still make it a very difficult matchup for Cloud9 Blue once they take the defender side themselves. And Boostio is once again trying to take the matters into his own hands. He's able to take one. He's traded off, but knows that there's 2 more at A main that he can call off for his teammates. So right now you still have one jumping in the back of the fountain. That's going to be Insky as that Omen, just in case if he sees that Cloud9 are looking to take control back towards the A side, towards the mid side. But as he doesn't, you see nobody else rotating on the A side, because they think that the attack is going to happen once again towards A. The thing is, though, another big lurk coming in all the way from the B entrance, and that's going to be possibly the key play with Mitch to maybe try to force a rotation out.
You should run.
There's an ult
especially with that.
Yeah. It doesn't look like roca's falling for this one, but he does change positions, goes inside the door.
30 seconds left.
And that's going to allow them to just get right on out. So the smoke comes through, but there's a gap, and roca can play with that. There's the dismiss as well. sSef has picked up the kill onto mitch. TenZ does eventually drop roca, but they're already moving into position. They've already made it up to heaven as the spike touches pay dirt. Shock darts flying out in both directions. It's a beautiful display of fireworks on the site, but no damage has been dealt. It's purely aesthetic. Vice in position, tries to do a lot, but only does a little. 1 kill for him, and it's all the pressure now onto TenZ. TenZ finds the first. He's got 6 HP. Just guesses wrong on the 50-50. It'll be sSef to win the round for SSG, and they find number 4 on the board. We've had close half after close half in all of the first halves in these 3 maps that we've seen played out, and it's looking like we're going to get that again as Space Station is positioned to potentially find a 5th and 6th round. The money from Cloud9 is good enough for a buy here. It's still not perfect. Vice has to go down to SMG. Shinobi likely to do the same. TenZ initially buying an Odin, but he's actually going to drop a rifle. So Drops the rifle for
Blade
Shinobi
Storm. Yep.
and has the Blade Storm, exactly.
Turret out.
And Vice only has a Spectre too, so they're going to look for something very explosive, possibly with the Blade Storm, going for the Paranoia, maybe towards B main, and then just dash into the site. Let's see if that's going to happen. First off, it's going to be the Owl drone to clear things out. They spot one towards the staircase. The orb is up there. He's going to double jump it. So he's probably going to try to look back towards the staircase if they could. But this is going to be, you're going to expect something very explosive here towards the A side, especially now sSef gets spotted once again by a recon arrow coming in from the attacker side. We're now pushing through. The first trades coming across from each side. As sSef is looking back, oh, what a flick there onto Mitch. But TenZ still moving forward. He does get the Blade Storm kill onto sSef, picks up the Vandal, knows an opponent is close towards the market, but his team hasn't really moved in towards the site yet.
Here's the weird thing, too, with the way those animations worked out, you could hardly tell it. But he actually got dinked on the cross. I'm looking at TenZ. Now, Vice, with some good shock dart work, forces roca to come straight at him after the dismiss ends. Now it's a 1v1. It is the mirror match. You've got Sovas on each side, but one's feeling a little bit healthier than the other, and that one would be Kaplan, who just stays on the B site and holds his ground.
Last round.
5 rounds here for Space Station as we move into the final round of the first half. But again, I look at the way that just broke down. TenZ dashes out into Cubby, gets dinked on the cross, but because of the animations, how quickly that happened, you almost couldn't tell. It was like an accidental dink. Like he switched targets initially. sSef did amazing damage in that last round. And again, we're seeing the scenario we were talking about. Bind and Haven, not two maps that necessarily play to the strengths of Killjoy, but Split and Ascent are, and that's why you're seeing Split and Ascent with higher numbers for the Killjoy players of Mitch and sSef.
Yeah. And you're also trying to, I was also trying to figure out what actually prevented Cloud9 Blue from really getting into the site, because really TenZ only made it in there with that 4 HP. He got a couple of entries, but at the same time, towards the end of the round, you saw that Vice picked up a rifle all the way towards Jett. You saw a couple of players that were low on HP outside B main. So what did SSG really do to prevent them from pushing like that? It's going to have to be some utilities from what they have, but they don't really have any type of utilities to counter it back. That said, though, they are holding back towards the A side. It's going to be a push through, but a 3 versus 1 in the end with only one stuck inside that site. It's going to be Mitch. Full HP, first kill. Bulldog in hand. It bites on the first. Cancels out the recon dart as well. He pulls the door and pick up a Vandal. But the last 2 players, now he knows that it's going to be somewhere up towards that heaven. And especially with that peak, spots them both, including the turret. With still plenty of time, he could still make it a death match. That's 2 separate 1 versus 1, and clutches that round on a 2 versus 1 to make it 7-5,
Switching
win in the
sides.
half for Cloud9.
Now they switch sides as well. We'll take a look at the replay from that last one. Just dirty shots coming out from Mitch. A nice little 3K at the end of the first half. He finds himself at 13 and 7, 13 and 8 for his counterpart.
A very similar scenario, like I mentioned before here on this matchup for this team. SSG this time on the attack, still using the frenzy into their favor with no armor, but they don't really have anything to dash in, right? You don't have that Boostio with the satchel charges to try to surprise up opponents close range. You don't have any Jett to try to push forward, so you're really trying to utilize, oh, okay, it's going to be a very passive play. They're expecting some kind of a B push, and hopefully that the turret could spot him, and then they could re-attack later on. Could also be from a recon dart that they're trying to avoid at the beginning of the round. And there you go. They're trying to move in, and they're going to look to explode very soon.
A stark contrast from the pistol round we saw in the first half, which was just pure speed into the A site. A much slower take coming in here. Nano Swarm helps slow things down. The Blaze Wall that went up is not really as useful as they might have hoped. And there's some good damage dealt currently to Space Station. They finally start working their way in, and the dart cover is down on the door that allows them to get across. Now, Boostio just runs straight at them. An interesting decision, to say the least. But they will guarantee a spike plant out of this. Dart cover's down on top of the turret, so it won't spot them on the cross. There's an alarm bot going down, taken out as it's spotted almost immediately. Recon dart also being dropped. smoke's going out. With the turret falling, they've got the ability to come more towards sidewalk as well. TenZ spamming some shots through the door and through the wall. Not necessarily hitting, but very close to the targets, and it's all falling apart. TenZ ends up finding a nice little three-piece on the round. He was strong in the pistol round in the first half, and he repeats in similar fashion here as Cloud9 find number 8 on the scoreboard. The question is whether or not Spacestation can fire back and pick up a big win like they did on Split.
Yeah, but once again, it's just a great display of utilities from Cloud9. Get that recon dart spotted enough. The even individual plays from TenZ with the Cloudburst. Knowing that somebody like roca and Kaplan play with the Frenzy. Boostio could also play with a Frenzy too. So utilizing the Cloudburst, he could predict that somebody's going to play close range, thinking that when the Cloudburst dissipates, he could actually try to, or they could actually try to get the better fight with the Frenzies versus a Ghost with the rapid fire rate. So he just decides to spray through it to get the kill. So I just like how Cloud9 Blue played that retake. And it's going to be very tough now for SSG to try to take over this A side, especially when TenZ is wielding a Judge close range and still continues to push forward. That's a second kill. That's a third kill through the smoke. That's a 50 to another 50, just randomly spraying, and it's all connecting.
That is just TenZ doing TenZ things. That is absurd. He finds the initial kill. You know, standard Judge play, waiting right around the corner. Then he pushes in a dark cover and just starts spamming out shots, and he could not have been more dead on with some of them. So now as they fly into position, roca, he says, hey, I saw your shots with the Judge, and that's cute and all. Let me show you how a real man aims. Pulls out the Sheriff and finds 2 quick headshots. And they now have some semblance of sight control, but it's stolen away as shinobi gets there before the door can close. As great as the shots were from roca, there still was a difficult task in front of them. And they didn't allow the door to close, so they end up getting shot as the door is going down. Good work from both roca and TenZ, though. Players be profiled coming into the series.
And now you're forcing, what, 2 rifles to be purchased. The Spectre staying from the previous round, even Vice with an Ares from that second round coming through. Full gun round for SSG. And how do they take advantage for this right now for Spacestation Gaming? It looks to be a mid control. Smoking up catwalk, leaving mid open, so they're okay to battle long range with the rifles. Eventually, we'll see if it's going to be an operator. It's going to be in the hand of maybe Kaplan versus an operator, possibly of TenZ on the defender side too. But so far, it's really just them playing a slow-paced game on this mid side. But the Owl Drone is only going to spot 1. I don't think he spotted roca that is playing by that generator on that mid side, which allows them to just re-push forward and take this mid control to seemingly looking to pinch into the A side in the end, because that spike is still down towards A. You still have Insky lurking in that area as well.
Slow round. I mean, the comparison between the first few rounds in that first half and what we're seeing here, very, very different. But like, let's see how it works. Again, this is another player we talked about was Relyks. You know, what was Relyks' impact going to be looking like? It was more on the attack, not so much on the defense, as typically speaking, he's been on the lurk on the B side and watching for the pushes over in that direction. But this time he opens things up here for Cloud9. Nice response from roca, who tries to get across. There's Relyks again, coming up big. And the nade is actually huge. It's going to land right in their laps. It's going to do significant damage. Kaplan, who's down to 61 HP, is the sole remaining member of Spacestation and now has to fight his way out of the scenario. With 11 seconds left, has to go for the dedicated plant. And that shock dart, it's right on the money. Vice, he's just going for those bank shots. Clearly an A-set pool, as he knows his geometry well. And the angle is perfect, it's right on the money. It's a 10th round on the board for Cloud9. They've reached double digits, and there is a lot of crouching right now. The Turbo Ducks.
Turbo Dunks, graffitis, anything you could think of. And even unloading an Ares clip into that round to show that Cloud9, you know, we talked about, are they going to feel pressured or not? They're just having a fun day at school. And at the same time, though, I just have to feel a little bit frustrated of how roca cleared that 50. He actually really looked at the staircase in that left corner, spotted shinobi, but then decided to turn back towards the sliding door. Those fake checks seems to be so detrimental for a lot of these players, a lot of these teams. That foiled the plans of them taking that take on that catwalk side, because then Boostio was so focused on trying to kill him on the staircase that a backstab came from the sliding door. Now you have an eco coming in from SSG. Well, it seems as though there'd be some sort of a broken buy, right? But you still have TenZ forced to dash away safely. Still a 5 versus 5. So you still see roca with a sheriff. But for the rest, we'll see what's going to happen for the attacker side. Can they turn this around with the heroic plays of the sheriffs that we've seen from sSef, from insky, and from roca previously on this map?
Spacestation again on this slow play, methodically taking their time across the map. There's the jiggle peek that comes out initially from Relyks, I believe that was, who's now switched positions. He was playing on the A side previously. Now he's over on B. The nade comes through, but it lands a little bit short, doesn't bank around the corner quite so much. Boostio has to be careful. There's one waiting on the stairs. It's shinobi who pops off in the round. Shinobi finds 3. Don't call him a boomer, as shinobi's putting in work here on the defense. Now roca goes for a heal, but with just a sheriff and a target towards mid, not much can be done.
Yeah.
Cloud9 continue to look strong. And like we said, whoever set the pace early was likely going to be the ones who took the series, and that was Cloud9. Right off the bat, they charged sites 4 rounds in a row. They literally just rushed into sites. And after that, they saw Space Station come back a bit, but the foundation was already laid out. The groundwork had been done. And Cloud9 could build from there, and they have. Space Station, unfortunately, here in this second half, just has not yet gotten their foot in the door. Now, this could be a pivotal moment for them, but even if they're able to pick up a win here, there's still such a mountain of rounds separating these two teams.
I could only unfortunately imagine the amount of NA flash that I saw in the chat at this point. But it's going to be a run it back from that orb and immediately canceled out. This is going to be so hard right now for Space Station Gaming to retake, especially with the nano swarms coming on the ground. Hunter's Fury to come out at the same time too, does not connect, but roca still gets an opener. Here comes the showstopper, connects onto roca, and it's trade at the trade. A 1-man advantage, made that tied up. And it's still gonna be a 1 versus 1 in the end as insky kills him. Versus Vice. It's just I mean, the setup for both of these teams is just ideal in both scenarios where SSG pulls it up on top in the end.
Here's where it starts. How long will it last? That's ultimately what you have to ask yourself. Does SSG have the staying power to continue fighting back against a team that's played as well as Cloud9 has at times? Has their performance been inconsistent? Of course. You know, I think the fact that they're playing in this second event is an indicator of that. Losing to Renegades is something that no one saw coming. Everyone thought Cloud9 would have already been qualified by this point. But nonetheless, still a strong team. Space Station has a lot to prove. And ultimately, to some, I think they kind of already have. Just illustrating that they can get to this point and put up numbers against teams that are well established is an impressive feat, but that's not enough for them. They've now got 5 rounds separating them from Cloud9 Blue, and again, they go back to that slow and methodical approach.
This is new here for Space Station Gaming. Looking for this mid-control slowly. The alarm bot is definitely going to have to be shot up unless they smoke it. This is one thing that you could actually do as well. If you smoke it close, especially if they hear the humming, now they're going to shoot it off instead. Because you could smoke it and try to lurk around, especially with universal smoke that you could have with the Omen. And you have it early from the shadows coming in from shinobi into the B site. So this sort of weakens up the A side. You have a lurk coming in from roca, and the rest of them will execute towards A main.
Relyks on site, has to step up big. He's got backup coming in from TenZ. Relyks with the transfer over. And again, Relyks Or Roca, excuse me. Doing what Roca does best. He's just messing with Mitch, but then he takes the duel, and it's pistol versus rifle, and he loses that one. So I think he's having
Match
fun
point.
with it, but ultimately, in the end, Cloud9 finds number 12, and you know, we said it was likely going to be a 2-1 for Cloud9, but I would have loved to have been wrong to see that story play out, because who doesn't love an underdog story?
Yeah. And it's just unfortunate of how that blaze wall became their detriment for Spacestation Gaming, because Boostio put that up. I'm sure he was trying to go for a curveball through the blaze wall to help the team come through, but he eats a dagger in the face, and that canceled out everything else. They had to try to run in through their own blaze wall, and then it was just open season for TenZ and for Relyks. When they had a 4 versus 2, it was just the perfect picks on that timing for Cloud9, and they hold their ground. They're holding it even more.
You should run.
4 kills away from winning the series and making it to the playoffs of the UMG Close Qualifier. And it starts off now with them being pushed out, or continued with them being pushed away from the ultimate, but they're not committing on this right now. It's wasted.
There's the shots coming out, and it's all starting to spiral, but hold on. sSef pops off, finds 3.
Nowhere
And Boostio is now in a 1-on-2, and oh no, Boostio actually runs into oh no!
Defenders win.
Boostio! He tries to dodge it, and it's just well traced by Vice. I mean, that's a dirty ult in the end. Cloud9 eliminating Spacestation Gaming and moving on into the playoffs tomorrow.
Look, man, it's heartbreaking. It really is. And Bach, I'm with